Okay, welcome back to Variety Homestead. I thought today, since it's getting close, it's getting very close to muzzleloading season, also known as black powder season. I thought for today I'd give you some basics in case you were thinking about getting into that particular realm of firearms yourself. So I'm going to lay out my go-to, or one of my go-tos. I actually have two muzzleloading rifles, and then I'll explain some things about them, and then you might have an interest in that as well. So the type of muzzleloading that I do is called traditional muzzleloading, in that I don't use the modern profile modern what are called inline muzzleloaders. So they look more like a traditional rifle in their overall appearance, and they're easily able to be scoped. So a lot of folks want to put a scope on theirs, and those new inlines, I don't own one of those, so I really can't show it to you. What I do have, one of mine is this is a traditional muzzleloader. This one has got a little bit of age on it. It was made back in the 90s by a company called Thompson Center. Thompson Center quit making these. The only place you're going to find them now is in the used market, and that's exactly where I found this one. I had a brand new one about 28 or so years ago that I purchased one of these. It was a Thompson Center, and it's in 50 caliber, and I put a rear aperture peep sight on it, and this is where the original sight goes. I took that piece off. I just left the base, put this rear aperture on it, and I hunted with it for years. I ended up selling it, much to my chagrin, because it was a serious tack driver, and it ended up being sold. So I bought another one some years later, after I had gotten out of muzzleloading, gotten back into it, and so I went and bought this. In the meantime, I also bought a Pennsylvania long rifle in percussion. This is a percussion rifle, so it uses a percussion cap here, and then the hammer strikes the percussion cap, and it sets off a spark which ignites the black powder or black powder substitute in the barrel, and you've got a ball in there with a patch on it, or you have a conical bullet, and once the powder is ignited, there's an explosion inside, and it comes out the business end of the gun. These guns, this Thompson Center is very accurate. It's not quite as accurate, or at least I'm not quite as accurate with it as I was with my previous muzzleloader, but it's still a lot of fun to shoot. It doesn't kick hard, even though it's a 50 caliber. You can make it kick hard if you want to keep loading up the grains of powder in there, but you don't have to get a good load out of it to shoot even up to 100 yards. So I'm going to go into a little bit more details about some of this stuff, so that if you want to get involved in it, it might be a little late for you to get into it this year, but maybe not. So I want to give you a little bit closer view up so you can see what's going on here. So right here, you've got what's called double set triggers. So once the rifle is cocked, then you pull the rear trigger until it sets, and then the front trigger is now a hair trigger. You can use it without the set trigger feature and just adjust the trigger pull on this particular model to get pretty light. This is the rear peep aperture I was telling you about. This is made by Thompson Center, but it's not made anymore. So you can find them on eBay. They want ridiculous, exorbitant, absolutely mind-boggling prices for these. I paid probably less than $20 when I bought this years ago, And today they're like $100 and some, and it's because they're so hard to find. This is a traditional model, and it's called the Hawken, but it's by no means historically accurate to what the original Hawkens were like. So there's a lot of purists out there that'll say, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's not original. It doesn't have anything. But look, it got me into the sport. It got me to using black powder, and I really like the feel and the weight of it. The original Hawkins were longer than this. They had something like a 32-inch barrel, and they weighed, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 14 pounds. I mean, to lug one of those around all day, and I don't have a horse like those plainsmen did, so I'm not going to haul a 14-pound original Hawken around. But your mileage may vary. You may like that sort of thing. So I'm not trying to scare anybody away from this. As a matter of fact, I think a lot more people ought to get into the traditional side of muzzle loading. For me, it's a lot of fun. But at the very least, it's not about going out and just buying, you know, some balls, some patches, and some powder. I mean, there are things, you got to clean this thing. It does require some effort to clean it. So I'm going to show you some of the basics that I think a person would want to have besides balls and powder that will help you along the way in cleaning and maintaining your firearm. So right here, this is called a powder measure. You can set it for whatever degrees you're comfortable with. This particular one is set to 70 grains. So 70 grains would be my go-to load. And I use triple F. I use both. I use triple F and double F black powder. But a powder measure, you're going to want that. This is a nice to have. It's a powder horn. Basically, you put the powder in, using a sheet of paper and get it in there, and then cap it. But then you don't know, without a powder measure, you don't know how much powder you're dispensing, right? So you need to dispense it into this channel right here. And then when you dispense the powder, then I tap it a little bit like that just to settle the powder, and then push that, and it cleans it off nice, and then you pour this down the barrel of the gun. That's the first thing you put down there. You don't put the bullet first, you put the powder first. And there's a couple of different, in fact, there's a lot of different powder measures out there and ways to carry powder. I showed you the powder horn, but when I'm hunting, I'm not doing reenacting, so I'm not absolutely trying to be historically perfectly accurate. This is what I've been using for a lot of years. It's just it's a powder measure. This opens a channel up that you can pour that into your measure, and the principle is the same. The measure is what gives you how much powder. This is just what carries the powder. So you're going to want to have some sort of powder measure and some sort of way to carry your powder. The next thing you're going to want to have are some bullets or balls. Okay, so this is a typical 490 grain 50 caliber ball. If you go to a 45 caliber rifle, you're going to have a smaller ball than this. If you go to a larger, you're going to have a larger 45 is 0.45. That's almost half an inch, 5/100ths off. A 54 calibers, 4/100ths over. They got 50/50s, 54s, 58s, 62s. I mean, you can get a lot of different configurations. Then you have your patches. Now, I have pre-lubed these patches, so I've just got them in a sealed up little bag here. And these patches, I buy them non-lubed and lubed. It depends on what I'm into at the time. And then the ball goes on the patch, and then that goes down the barrel. And I'll demonstrate that for you in another video. But so you got your powder measure, your method of carrying your powder. You've got your ball, you've got your patches, and you're going to need some sort of lube. This is Thompson Center Boar Butter. It's natural lube, 1,000 plus. A lot of folks swear by it. A lot of folks absolutely hate it. They say my barrel rusts out all the time, whatever. I've had it happen both ways. I use a couple of different things. I use this if I'm out at the range a lot of times to lube the patches with, or if I'm shooting conicals, I might lube it. But I make my own lube as well. Sometimes I will use a combination of Crisco and beeswax or something like that, made lube with. The other thing I have here, and you can ignore the little can, this is a musket cap can, but I put my tools for getting ready to clean my black powder with. So this is called a nipple wrench. And this wrench fits over your nipple on your black powder. I'll demonstrate when we go to the cleaning part, because I'm going to do that next. That goes over to loosen the nipple so that you can take the nipple off and clean it. So you got that, and this is just a little piece of actually, I think it's picture hanger wire that I use to clear some channels out sometimes with. This is a cleaning, called a cleaning jag. So you screw this onto the end of your ramrod, and this part here you put a patch over it, not a lubed patch, a dry patch, or maybe a patch that's got alcohol on it. And you run it down the barrel to clean all the residue black powder out of it. This is called a patch puller. So sometimes you can put a patch down there and with your jag, and every once in a while, not very often, I've only had it happen to me a couple of times in, close to 30 years. But every once in a while, the patch will get hung up. And so you've got to put this on your ramrod, and then you go down there and you just twist it, and it grabs that patch and just pull it out. Sometimes folks use this little tool right here, goes to the bottom, the very bottom of your barrel, and you spin that around in there, and it'll clean off residue that's actually below your touch hole. And that's just another nipple wrench there. And once in a while, if you get crazy and you end up doing what's called dry balling, that's where you put your ball and your patch down there, or your conical bullet down the barrel, and you forgot to put your powder in, that's where this comes into play. This is called a ball puller, ball or bullet puller. So then that goes on the end of your ramrod. It's threaded to go to the end of your ramrod. Then you push that down, and you screw this thing in to the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey till you get it in there really good. And then you got to use some serious force to pull that ball back out of the barrel. But it works. It does work. I've had to use it a couple of times. You get talking or you get distracted and you're trying to think of other things besides your job at hand, which is not a good idea, and you end up dry balling your load. That means you've got to pull that ball and patch out of there. So I keep it in a little tin can like this. And then let's see what else. That's most of the cleaning stuff. I've got bulk patches. These are cleaning patches. These are not to use to load with. These are cleaning patches. They're way too big to load with. I'd have to cut them all down. And then there's some more bulk patches there that I use to clean with. I also have 70% isopropyl alcohol. I use that to clean the bore with between shots if I'm at the range. If I'm hunting, I don't clean between shots. So when you're sighting your gun in, you have to know what it's going to do both ways. This is T17 black powder bore cleaner. I use this every once in a while. It supposedly works very well for mitigating the corrosive fouling that you get, because black powder and the black powder substitutes like Pyrodex are extremely corrosive, and you got to get that stuff cleaned up. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll use a few patches of this when I get done, when I get back, before I do my big cleaning, I use hot soapy water to do this. And then this is a triple, it's called triple F, it's FFFG. They call this pistol powder because it's a finer grit. I don't have a whole lot in here, maybe a half a pound, but I've got more. I started using this, so I'll keep using the triple F probably until I run out, or until I come up with another load. Part of the fun of doing black powder is coming up with loads, various loads, like you do your what's called load development, and you figure out what works really well, and that's what you want to be hunting with, and that's what I like to do. I like to figure that stuff out. And then once you get a load, you can get that's your comfort load, and that's what you want. That's what you go hunting with. On to cleaning. So, a few things you're going to want to do to set this bad boy up to clean. One thing I did was I cocked the hammer to full cock, and then I'm going to get out my handy dandy little tool tin, and a nipple wrench here. Now, I'm using, this is what's called a standard. This is actually a Thompson Center nipple that goes in. You can still buy this stuff. Depends on where you buy it from. So you take the nipple wrench in here like this, and you're going to lefty-loosey it, obviously. So you pop it loose like that, and then you unscrew it out. Let me see to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. It screws out, and there's a hole in the bottom. I put some lube in here to keep it so that it would screw in and out, and then I'm going to clean all that out, and then I'm going to put it back in, and I drop it right in the top of the can here. The second thing you're going to want to do, or what I would do, is I'm going to take the ramrod out, okay? Because that's one of the things you're going to use to clean it with. You use it to load with, and I'm going to sit that right up here. Then the third thing I'm going to do here is there's a pin right here, and that's holding the barrel to the stock. So there's a way to, I just give this a little tap across the back here. You doesn't have to be beat or anything. Just give it a little tap, loosen it up. You can see where it's loosened up there. Oh, hopefully. And then I can just basically take my fingers and pull it out, and that's the retaining pin, and I drop that right in there. At that point, with everything cocked, you're now able to break the barrel free. So it comes out just like this, and I now have the stock here, which I'm going to need to clean parts of the stock. I'm going to need to clean around the hammer, need to clean around here, because it does get powder residue in it. And I'll clean all of this up, and I'll just sit that over here for the moment. The barrel's really kind of the big deal. You got this channel here that there's a hole in here, there's a hole in the barrel, and the hole is where your spark goes through to ignite the powder to push the projectile out of the business end of the barrel. So it's ready to clean. It's been in storage since the last. So I'm going to set up and show you how I clean the barrel. All right, let's get to some cleaning. So I'm hoping that this camera is lined up. I do not have a lot of technology here. So to recap, I've removed the nipple. I have removed the pin that retains the barrel onto the stock. Taken the rod out. This is a ramrod. And what I'm going to use to clean with is called a range rod, or I call it a range rod. I made it myself. This is a piece of fiberglass or Delrin type material. I made took a piece of dowel and made a handle on it, screwed it through, drilled it through. Does a really good job. I put another jag. This is another jag I picked up on here after I took an old tip. This is called a rod tip, and I put it on there, nailed it in with some brass and peened it. And so that's what I'm going to be using to clean with. So I have hot, so I'll take this back out of here so you can see. Basically, I got a 5-gallon bucket here. I put this up last year sometime to hold. Basically, I have hot soapy water here. It was really hot. It's not as hot now. And I poured, it's about a half a gallon, but it's in a pitcher. So it gives me some depth. And there's no precise exact measurement to this, folks. I got a bucket here, so I can sit that on there and then submerge the rod. And it's for you to be able to see better. I can do it without it, but like I said, I got about just a little bit of Dawn dish liquid in there. Dawn works really well at cutting grease and things like that. So I then will take and wet me a patch. And you want this water as hot as you can stand it. This is, and I crank it on down. I go up and down a few times, because what happens here is that sucking motion, once you get down to the bottom, it'll start pulling. And then you pull out and you see there's your wet patch. And you don't, I mean, that patch is pretty done. Now, to full disclosure, this rifle, I cleaned it after hunting season, so it's not very dirty. And then you pull that out of there, you see you got some soapy residue here. And you also take you a patch, or I do, take a patch, and I go into where the touch hole is for the nipple, and I make sure that there's no residue in there. And there's a little teeny bit, but not much. And just get her wiped off there. I'll flip it around. See, maybe you can see from this angle. I surely hope so. And then I'll take, I'll use something called a pipe cleaner, and you can still buy those for folks who smoke pipes. These are Dill's pipe cleaners for everyday use. And what I will do with this is, now I typically cut these off, but I'll take one and I'll bend it over like that, and then I'll put it in here and twist it around just to make sure I get, everything out of the threads. Like I said, I did clean this before. I'll also take the nipple, and I'll take the pipe cleaner and I will run it down through the nipple and swish it around. And then I got this little teeny piece of wire that I've had for a long time. You have to make sure it's the right size. I also have a needle in there, and I'll go back through. Let me see if I can get right in on you, and I'll just run that through there to clean it out, just to make sure it's clean. And then when you look through it, you should be able to see straight through. You should be able to see daylight, and you should be able to see daylight from both directions. So I know that's clean. I know this is clean, and I know the barrel's clean. So once I've done that, but see, I got water in this barrel. Water and black powder are not best friends at all. So I can do a couple of things. I can store this barrel. Let me get this soapy water out of here. So I can store this barrel upside down like this, and I can just let all the water run out. Or one of the things I like to do to help it along is I will take the barrel and I'll use isopropyl alcohol to help dry it out, and it works. I just get it on there. I'm not scared to have a little bit of it on there, and I will run it on down through, give it a twist or two and come on back out with it. And see, it's pretty clean. Now I've just dumped alcohol in there, so alcohol is going to dry pretty fast. But I'm gonna dry patch it once or twice just to make sure that it don't have a whole heck of a lot in there. And soaking through okay there. And then come back on the other side, give it a twist or two, and come on back out. And got a little teeny bit of discoloration in there, but nothing to get excited about. And then I'm going to do another dry patch. And I'll flip that one over, go back down. And I'm going to call that good. Sometimes you got to do more than that. Now, I'm starting with a clean rifle here. So I'm going to flip this over and end up. And that's going to let me ensure that if there's any water residue in there, that it's all going to run it out. It's going to run out. It's going to evaporate. And then I'm going to reassemble this rifle. And I'll show you how I do that in prep to go out and take the first shot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the nipple back on. All right, see these threads in the nipple? Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put just the tiniest bit of lube on there. After I put I'm going to run me another pipe cleaner through there just to make sure that's good and dry. Run a pipe cleaner through the nipple hole, and then, or actually through the receiver on the barrel, and then I will screw this on and I'll show you. I'll try to get close up and make sure that it stays in the camera so you can see. So I'm using the boar butter for this. Whoop, there it is. And it's just a thick type of lube material. So I'll just get the teeniest amount off on my finger, because otherwise I got to wipe it off on something. See, I've just got a little teeny bit there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to take that stuff and go around like so. And I'm pretty much done. Being careful not to get it on the face, because I don't want anything obstructing the flash hole, right? Then I'm going to hold this, and let me get this up here to you so you can see hopefully what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put this in the screw hole, and I'm just going to gently turn it. And the threads are very good threads, so I'm going to get it till it's tight. And then I'll take the nipple wrench and I'm going to reinstall it. So I'm just going to snug it down really good. Don't have to hammer it down. I just want to snug it down good. And it's ready to go back into the gun. Then I'm going to take my stock, and in this particular brand of black powder rifles, you can see it's got a hook on the bottom that you can put put it back on, and it catches inside the stock there. Not sure if you could see that. So I'm going to hold this up, put it in there like that, and then it's a done deal. Then I'm going to put the pin back in and make sure that that's all the way seated. And then I'm going to put the ramrod back in. And what I usually do is I'll take a piece of patch material like I had here, and I'll fold it over a little bit, into a little ball there, and then I'll release the hammer so that it will sit on that right there. And that's it, basically. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the range, and then we're going to start taking some shots to see how we're lining up for hunting season. All right, so that's a quick lesson in a traditional muzzle loader, how to clean it, some of the things you need. This is just in case you're interested. It's something that you feel like you might want to get into. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. You have to make sure you observe all of the common sense safety rules when you're dealing with black powder or a black powder substitute. They're very flammable. You don't want any open flames or anything around them, especially if you're using black powder. Black powder is actually considered to be a type of explosive. So you gotta really make sure that you are mindful of these safety precautions when you're out there. And I would like to see everybody get into traditional muzzleloading, whether you want to be a reenactor, whether you just want to go to the range and shoot, whether you want to shoot competition, or whether you want to actually hunt. It's a lot of fun doing it in any way, shape, or form. So that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for coming and watching and staying through this with me. Thank you for visiting Variety Homestead, and hope you have a great one.